I'm just, every time I think, all right, that's enough, Kate, something else pops into my head. And it's because I was looking at the sky. And this is something that really came alive for me right at the beginning of my journey. And it's quite a good one because you can always look up at the sky. And so I'm looking at the sky and, you know, and you'll have heard people saying this, I'm sure, but words don't come alive, like I say, until you reflect and you bring them alive. And then they kind of become a feeling. That's what you're looking for, a feeling. So when you have words, it's just like your words. And it's like, yeah, yeah. But when you feel the truth, it's quite funny. My brother-in-law, he's been kind of listening and coming on this journey. And I told him a long time ago about, you know, the clouds, which I'll tell you now, the clouds in the sky. And then recently he said to me, oh my God, our thoughts are like the clouds in the sky, but we're not the clouds, they're temporary. And my sister went, Kate's been saying that to you for the last sort of, 2 years. But it hadn't come alive for him. Nothing comes alive until you see it for yourself, until you sit in the unknown and you allow it to kind of grow within you. And then it comes alive. And it's crazy how that happens. You know, we can't force it. We can't make it come alive for someone else. We can just bring someone into this space. And the clouds in the sky, I'm sure you will have heard this, but you might hear it again differently. But the clouds, they're temporary. You know, they're temporary expressions of the weather, of what's going on. And they shift and they change. And they're always moving and they're passing. But we can get mesmerized by them. You know, we can stare at them, and I can stare at a cloud and I can see something in it. I might see something in it that you don't see. I can say, look, can you see how that is like I don't know, something? And you'll be like, oh, I don't see that. I see something else, and we're all creating all the time. But ultimately, that's all our creation, and that's our experience, and it's temporary. And it's not who we are. But we get mesmerized and we get lost in the clouds. But as you get interested and you come on this journey, and if you're listening, then you start to see that the blue sky, or the sky, or the sun, whatever's going to make sense to you, now that's not shifting and changing like the clouds. And you start to see it's a separate space. You know, there is our thinking, our experience, which is changing like the weather, shifting, moving, expressions, and sometimes super dark, sometimes really heavy. And we can get lost inside them. Oh God, yeah, we can get lost in them and mesmerized by them. But when we know that, you know, there is this space beyond the clouds, and that's who we really are, our true, you know, our being. And that doesn't change. That's okay. That doesn't get damaged by the clouds. That's always okay. That's our well-being. That's our okayness. That's inbuilt. And the clouds don't touch it. And then we're not so worried about the clouds. We kind of know they just come and they go and they shift and they change. And sometimes when we're in a low mood, that's going to be another video because that's a game changer. Seeing mood. Oh my God. That's a big one. But, you know, it's all expressions. And it's quite interesting because if you go outside and, you know, if you're feeling heavy and you're lost in whatever experience, and you start to look at the clouds and you start to notice how they shift and they change, and you know, and then you start to look beyond and you just see in between the clouds and you look at the sky and it's not the same. And you kind of go, okay, I'm getting mesmerized by the clouds at the moment, and I don't need to change them. I don't need to do anything with them. I need to change the clouds. I I don't need to change my thinking. It's just becoming aware that I am thinking. I'm not my thoughts. The clouds are the expressions of the weather, and they're not who we are. They're just, that's our experience of life. We're thinking and we're feeling our thoughts, and they're coming through. And when we know that, we don't need to do anything with it. We don't need to change them, or just notice how mesmerized we are by them. And then we realize, oh, they'll pass, they'll change, they'll shift. I'm just stuck in a dark one right now, and that's all right. I'm judging it and I'm resisting it, and at some point I'll see it and it'll move on by. And then you look beyond at that space of being, and that space knows that it doesn't matter what the clouds are doing. We're fine. Beyond our experience, we're fine. We're all okay. We're all the same. We're all that same space. Anyway, I'm just going to leave that with you. Bye.